Today we're looking at Paul Cuffee. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. Paul Cuffee was a sea captain and businessman in the late 1700s to early 1800s and was one of the wealthiest African Americans of his time and a leading abolitionist fighting to end the institution of slavery in America. Cuffee was born January 17, 1759 on Cuttyhunk Island in Massachusetts. His mother, Ruth Moses, was of Native American descent and was actually a member of the Wampanoag tribe, and his father, Cuffee Slocum, having taken the last name of his former owner, John Slocum, was a former enslaved person who had been freed by John Slocum, who was a Quaker. Cuffee soon changed his name to Cuffee Slocum to make it sound more European, or I guess American if you want to say that. But Paul was one of 10 children, and in 1772, when Paul was only 13 years old, his father Cuffee died and left the family farm near Dartmouth, Massachusetts to Paul and his older brother. When Paul's father died, Paul changed his last name from Slocum to Cuffee. It was shortly thereafter in 1773 that Cuffee began his career at sea. Paul first signed on to join whaling voyages to the West Indies or the Caribbean, and then shortly after the American Revolution began, Cuffee used a small sailboat to slip past the British naval blockade and deliver goods into Massachusetts. From there, Cuffee began building a successful maritime business, which traded all along the East Coast, and Cuffee was also involved in buying, trading, and building ships. All of these ventures made Cuffee possibly the most wealthy African American in the country in the late 1700s. And Cuffee used his wealth to help others. First, he was a devout Quaker and put up half the money to build a Quaker church in Westport, Massachusetts. Second, he believed in education. He founded and built a school in Westport, Massachusetts, which was open to anyone regardless of their race. So it was really the first integrated school in New England, and that was something that was unheard of at the time. Cuffee was also politically active, as in 1780 he filed a petition to say that he shouldn't have to pay taxes because he was not allowed to vote because of the color of his skin. Now, I hope you pause for a moment here and think about this. Americans at the time in 1780 were fighting a war because they argued no taxation without representation. And here Paul Cuffee was exposing the hypocrisy of discriminating against African Americans by requiring him to pay taxes without giving him a vote, just simply because of the color of his skin. And so in the end, Cuffee was thrown in jail, but then was released, but he did get his taxes lowered and made an important statement that all citizens deserve a vote. In 1783, he married Alice Paquette, who was also a member of the Wampanoag tribe. Together, they moved from Dartmouth to Westport, Massachusetts, where together they would have 7 children. By the early 1800s, Cuffee began to get involved in an effort to establish a colony in Sierra Leone for freed enslaved people. Cuffee made several trips to Sierra Leone and to England to meet with abolitionists there to organize the colony. He recognized that in order for the colony to be successful, it needed to be economically stable, and Cuffee personally invested money in developing shipping and trade in Sierra Leone. Between the years of 1810 to 1817, Cuffee traveled throughout New England to Philadelphia, New York, and Baltimore, working with abolitionist groups and free enslaved people to promote the idea of colonizing Sierra Leone. In 1812, one of Cuffee's ships was seized by the U.S. government after traveling to Sierra Leone and Britain, and they claimed they took it because it was in violation of the Embargo Act, which was in effect then. Cuffee went to the White House and met with President James Madison to settle the issue. President Madison ordered that Cuffee's ship be returned, but also talked with Paul about his ideas on African American colonization. Cuffee continued to push for colonization, and in February of 1816, 38 African Americans arrived in Sierra Leone aboard one of Cuffee's ships. Cuffee's plan for an African American colony in Africa soon lost support, though, as the African American community in America kind of lost interest in it. Not long after, Cuffee began to have serious health issues, and on September 7th of 1817, Paul Cuffee died at the age of 58. He was buried in the cemetery at the Quaker meeting house he helped to build. In a time when the color of your skin determined your status in society, Paul Cuffee overcame the racism and discrimination of the period to become a leading voice for change and a voice for those who were not allowed to have a voice. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.